Hello, YouTube. We're going to get right into water in the efficient prepping series that I'm doing, okay? Another one of the top most important things. And yes, I know I haven't handled location yet. Be patient. It's coming very soon. Okay, but this is another one of those things you can jump on right now. And you can always move this shit later, all right? So it's not going to hurt you to start stockpiling some water, all right? First, before we talk about how I suggest doing it, we're going to get a little bit into the infrastructure of your current situation. Okay? Because the massive majority of you that are watching this video, you're on probably city water. Okay? Meaning that there's a water treatment facility, there's pumps that are pumping that water throughout the city, right? And pressurizing all the city water lines. And that's how it comes out of your faucet. Okay. If the power goes out, so is your water. That shit's going to go down. Okay. So that's something to definitely think about. And you should know where you're getting your water from. That's why I'm bringing this up. Okay. Another way that a lot of people are getting water is they're on a well. Now, the massive majority of people on a well, their well is powered by 110 or 220, right? Okay, so they're getting power from the power lines. Power goes out, their well pump won't work. Okay? So, something else to be aware of. Now, you can set up a generator to run a well pump. If you don't have that set up, if your well pump is strictly running on power from the power company, I would definitely begin looking at a workaround for that. Okay. Probably the most affordable way to do a workaround is to get a generator that's going to push enough power to run that well pump. Okay. And possibly more, right? You don't want one that's just barely going to run the well pump. Like, you might as well be able to charge up any comms you have, charge up any batteries you have that you're using or whatever else. So you probably want to have a little bit of extra juice than you need. Another thing is you don't want to have a inverter generator running your well pump, okay? From what I've read, inverter generators are more susceptible to getting fried by EMP, so you don't want that. You want just one of the old school, simple, like Briggs and Strattons or something like that are just going to crank out power and run at a constant RPM. Okay, guys? Obviously, that means that you need to be prepared to store some gas. Another thing that you should make sure of is how many gallons per minute does your well pump, right? Because there's all different kinds of pumps. They're different depths, but you should know how many gallons per minute you're going to get, because it's not hard to test this after you get a generator set up and find out, like, okay, you can rely on 16 gallons per minute. All right, so if you're getting 16 gallons per minute, that means you're getting 960 gallons per hour. All right, how much gas does your generator use in an hour? Okay, so then you can kind of do some calculations, like, all right, if I am going to be gardening down the road, we're going to get into that video, okay, but here's how much water use I'm going through a month, or here's how much I estimate I'll be going through a month, here's how much water use we estimate that the house is going to be using, right, for the people and stuff like that. And you can do a calculation regarding gasoline. What's going to take you to get through 2 years, right? That's what we're shooting for, 2 years, unless you decided to kind of modify that and go with like 1 or whatever, all right? Another way to run a well pump is with a solar pump and solar power. All right, most people don't have this set up. Okay, and from what I've heard, it's a different pump that goes down in the well. So you're talking at a good bit of money to change a well over to a solar driven well, right? You're going to have to call the pump company out. You're going to have to pay for the new pump. Usually they're going to replace all the wiring as well, and it might even take a different kind of wiring because it's probably a 12-volt system, right? And not 110 anymore, okay? It is a 12 volt, or it's going to be a 12 volt, or maybe possibly a 24 volt system if it's running on solar. Then you got to pay for all the solar panels. That's going to generally cost you a dollar a watt, right? You're going to have to know how to set it all up, or you're going to have to pay somebody to set it up for you, okay? So those just considerations to make. And you're probably, I'm just going to throw a number out there, but you're probably looking at about 10 grand, depending on the depth of your well and that kind of stuff. You probably could end up anywhere between like 5 and 10 grand. Or, I mean, hell, it could be a lot more than that. There's some wells out there that go way down, okay? All right, but just to kind of give you an idea, all right? So, and there's also, obviously there's groundwater, right? There's springs that will run year round. There's springs that are seasonal. Okay, so we're basically talking with springs, we're talking water that comes right out of the ground. Okay, so those can obviously be sources. There's rain catchment. Okay, so you can basically build a structure or use an existing structure to catch water, filter it, okay, and store it. And now we're talking either above ground tanks or cisterns. Okay, but those are other methods. Obviously, rivers, creeks, that kind of stuff is all legitimate sources of water, ponds, this kind of thing. There is a little bit of consideration to make regarding those things if there is some kind of nuclear warfare and fallout is making its way into these bodies of water. That's probably a whole different topic for another video. Okay, but that is stuff that you're going to want to think about, all right? So we're going to get right into the quick and dirty part. Like, what do you do right now if you're living in the city or your well pump runs on power from the power company, right? And you can't afford the generator and all that kind of shit. Like, what do you do? Okay, well, the quick and dirty, actually, we're going to start off with the most cost effective method of storing water, in my opinion. And my wife just came up with this like 10 minutes ago. I was talking to her about doing this video, and she's like, oh, just tell them they could do this if they're on a budget, okay? And that would be that when you're just eating and drinking what you normally eat and drink, right? Well, your juice containers, when you're done with them, you can clean them out. You can fill them with water. You can add the appropriate amount of bleach if you want to, okay? And you can store those water containers. There is some considerations to make about water containers when it comes to freezing. Let me go down this line of thought though another couple of minutes before I talk about that. Okay, another thing you can do, another cheap way to get into water storage is every time you go to the store, all right, you're in freaking Walmart, buy yourself 4 gallons of water or half dozen gallons of water. Okay, we're generally looking at this kind of stuff, right? These 1 gallon jugs. Okay, and they're usually going to be under $1, right? So if you're heading to the store, let's say you're going once a week, and you're buying 4 gallons at a time, you're only going to cost yourself $16 for the week, and at the end of the week, you now have 16 gallons of water storage. How long does a gallon of water last when the shit hits the fan, right? Well, generally, you're going to be looking at 1 gallon of water per person per day. Okay, I think that's actually a very safe estimate because people are going to be licking their plates clean, guys. Okay, you're not going to be dumping 4 gallons of water into a freaking wash bin so you can do your dishes. Okay, people are going to be licking plates clean. We're talking minimal water needed to clean plates. Okay, we're talking people are going to be bathing far less frequently. And my wife and I have this skill down, and I'm not BSing you. Babe, can you or can you not take a shower with less than half a gallon of water?
Yes.
You heard it, okay? She's actually a little better at it than I am, and she's got way more hair. So I'm like, maybe I'm not totally rocking the freaking 80-20 rule with my jug showers, okay? But we've done this plenty of times. We did it for a long time, and so we have it down. But you're looking at greatly reduced amount of water consumption per person, right? So I think a general rule, 1 gallon per person per day, makes perfect sense. So now at the end of that first month, you have 16 gallons of water. You basically have 4 days worth of water for a family of 4. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a hell of a lot more than no water. right? So it's a good place to start. Now, the downside of these 1 gallon jugs, let's talk about that real quick, okay? Storing them is going to be a little more difficult. Obviously, it's not just a singular tank that you put somewhere and fill up with a hose, right? So you have to have shelf space, or they need to be stackable, and you have to have the room to stack them somewhere. You don't want them out in the elements, okay? Which is also a downside compared to an actual like potable tank, like a large tank for potable water. Another thing is them freezing over. Now, I have two types of gallons to show you guys that have done well for us freezing over, okay? And that is these rectangular crystal geyser jugs. All right, you can actually fill these things up pretty much all the way, and that's if you've, so you can tell this one has the hell beat out of it, right? So we have used these for a lot of situations over and over and over again. And if you fill them back up, you just don't fill them all the way. Even if they're brand new and they're full all the way, what will happen when these freeze is the sides and the bottom will expand a bit. All right, so they don't stand up right real awesome when that happens. But we haven't really had any of these go bad on us. Haven't had them crack and stuff like that. So the plastic seems to be fairly stretchy. Another good 1 gallon jug is this style of jug. Okay, and same story. Okay, these will expand, especially in the bottom. You can see the bottom is concave there. It will no longer be concave after this freezes over. But we haven't had any of these break on us as well. And these ones, this handle is actually quite handy and pretty damn durable. A lot of these crystal geyser ones come with like a taped on shit handle. Those suck. All right. So these are kind of a plus. If you can find these containers at a good price, and they're actually a thicker plastic. So if you're using containers like this for a long period of time, they're going to see abrasion. Okay. They're going to get dropped. They're going to get drug around by kids. They're going to see abrasion. So these ones, and you can tell. I mean, this container has seen a decent bit of abrasion, and this is not a super old one, but it's seen a decent amount of use around here. What I don't recommend is buying the 1 gallon containers that look like a milk jug. The ones, especially the ones where you pull the plastic tab off to open them up. Okay, when those freeze, they'll pop the lid right off of those. All right, probably not every single time, but they're also not a durable plastic. I don't recommend those. If you can get these for even a little bit more money, you're going to be probably more happy with it in the long run. All right, so another way of storing water is going to be, and this is a rapid way, right? Because we're looking at 80-20. We're looking at getting you guys squared away as soon as possible, okay? Another way is to purchase a large potable water tank that you can put in your backyard and just top it off with your garden hose. Calculate the bleach amount, put some bleach in there if you want to, all right? And you're good to go. And usually with those tanks, I don't know how much the prices have changed in the past. I probably haven't looked at them for over a year. But you're generally looking at less than $1 a gallon. I want to say they're usually going to run you between like 600 and 900 bucks unless you're getting like a really big one. And I'm talking like tanks that are going anywhere from 550 gallons up to like 1650 gallons. Okay. So if you've got a little bit more cash to spend, it's much more of like a fire and forget method. You go buy the tank, you make sure you got the plugs to cap it, you fill the damn thing up with water, and you're good. And they can freeze, and we've had them freeze and not break. Okay? If you plumb them with like PVC and crap like that, like you run some PVC out the bottom and attach a spigot, okay, that stuff will crack. It won't always crack the first time it freezes over, but it eventually will, and it could do it to you on the first time. So in SHTF, I think it's most wise to have plumbing for that tank if you have plans to plumb it, yeah, when things go down. And at that point, you're going to have to empty the damn tank to plumb it anyways, right? So what I suggest doing and what I practice what I preach here, okay? What we do is we plug the bottom and the top of those tanks and we extract water with a bucket. You get a bucket on a piece of rope, you know, and the kids need chores, man. So you send them out to the black tank to go ahead and collect some water for whatever you need for that day. Okay, that's how we do it, and that's how I would suggest to do it. Another method would be a cistern. Okay, so what a cistern is, for those of you that don't know, it is underground water storage. All right, and it's not too hard to build them yourself. I haven't done it. I've looked into it, but you could basically build them with cinder blocks, dig a hole, build them with cinder blocks, line them with EPDM. You have to mold and build a concrete roof. Doesn't have to be concrete, but that's the method that I looked at most of the time. I've seen people do them with lumber though, like online. But you build a roof, and you make sure you have a way to access the cistern, like a human could get down inside of it to clean it out if necessary. Okay. Then the same story. You get your cistern built, you fill it up. Okay, you add bleach if you feel it necessary, and bam, you're good to go. If you have a property that is not just flat, like you got some more property and you've got some rolling hills and stuff like that, you could even put, a tank uphill of the house, and could even plumb it. Could even plumb it in a way, especially if it's a cistern, because you can bury cisterns, right? So now you're talking about water that's not going to freeze over. You could actually plumb your home with the cistern. So if the shit hits the fan, the power's out, you still have water pressure to the house. And in the meantime, you can put a float in the cistern so that, when water level gets down, like you could feed your house off the cistern year round, even if you have a well that runs on power, you know, from the power company. Just put a float in the cistern. So the house runs on water from the cistern. When the float gets to a certain level, boom, it kicks on your pump. Pump fills the cistern back up. Okay, actually, probably save you some money and power if you're gonna get into that. Okay, I think you guys get the idea with that. All right, so pretty simple idea. I would, if you're in one of those situations where you're on power, like your water system is dependent on power from the power company, and that is the massive majority of Americans, even people with wells. Okay, I would either start buying 1 gallon jugs or purchase yourself a large black tank and fill it up. There's some other methods too. Okay, there's like 6 gallon tanks, 7 gallon tanks you could buy at like Walmart and buy online and stuff like that, but they're not nearly as effective when it comes to cost. Okay, like those are generally going to run you anywhere from $16 and up to hold 6 gallons. All right, so now you're looking at what is that, like almost 250 a gallon to store it. Yeah, you can haul it around 6 gallons at a time, but you know it's just going to cost you more. You're better off with a large tank if you can afford it, because you're going to pay more than likely less than $1 per gallon for that storage, and you could even end up paying about 60 cents if the prices haven't changed, maybe 55 cents a gallon for storage. My puppy just had to interrupt. Okay, Ranger, off. 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 He's still being trained. And he's stubborn as hell. He doesn't listen very good. Good boy. Stay down there. Okay, wow, that totally dicked up my train of thought. But I think that pretty much covers it, dudes. You know, it's the same thing as the food video, right? Like, just kind of get into the grind of getting purchasing some water every time you go to town, and put them down in your crawl, put them in the closet, put them in the garage, whatever, so you have it. Okay, and if you've got a little bit more cash to drop right now, go ahead and get yourself a tank, because if you think about it and you do the math, right, a 1,450 gallon tank in your backyard, you know, you're looking at 1 gallon of water per family member for a family of 4 for an entire year. Right? You're covered for a year for a tank that's probably going to run you $900. And if you have a pickup truck too, you can pick the damn things up and just take them home yourself with some straps. Be careful about your back window. I smashed a back window out of a truck once, moving a big tank like that. Okay, that's it. Let's get some comments down below. Okay, any other ideas you guys have about water storage that's smart and effective? Oh, there's one I forgot real quick. And this is also a good one. Okay, you guys can buy bladders, okay, that expand, right? So when I was a sailor back in the day, like, not that I wasn't in the Navy, but my wife and I lived on sailboats for 3 years. There were people that were taking these water bladders, and you could buy these in a range of sizes, anywhere from, like, 50 gallons probably up to at least 300 and something gallons, if I remember correctly. Maybe not quite that big. But those are also not, like, super unaffordable. I want to say they were a little more expensive than buying a hard tank that you can just, like a big black potable water tank you can put outside. But with a bladder like that, you could put it in your crawl if your crawl was big enough and fill it up in your crawl. Right? So now you've got water storage that nobody can see from outside the house, and you've got hundreds of gallons. Okay? So that's it, dudes. I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff off the cuff, no notes, just kind of ripping it out there. And I want to get these videos out there to you guys as fast as possible, because I feel that, like, the time, the clock is ticking, and the sooner I can rip this stuff off and get it out there, the more time you guys are going to have to kind of, like, get cracking on it, okay? So that's it. I'll probably get into location and setting up caches in my next video. I think I'm going to clump the two together, and maybe some other stuff, all in the next video. Okay? So that's it. Like, share, subscribe. Okay? Consider supporting the channel on my Patreon page. I'm actually doing a snare giveaway for patrons on there right now that are helping the channel out. And kind of looking forward to that, and drawing a name out of a hat and seeing who's gonna get those snares and what they're gonna do with them. So that's it, guys. I'll see you in the next video.